Juniper Vale had never expected to stand inside a ballroom like this: polished marble, crystal chandeliers, and a crowd so drenched in wealth they treated humility like an inconvenience. She wasn't used to dresses that cost more than a month's rent or heels that clicked too loudly on imported floors. And yet here she was, clutching a champagne flute she hadn't touched, shoulders tight under the weight of whispers floating around her like smoke. She'd come to support her boss from the small community center she worked at, nothing more. An event sponsor had left behind 2 extra gala tickets, and her boss insisted Juniper take one. "You deserve a night to feel fancy," he'd said with a smile. Juniper didn't feel fancy, not when women in diamond cuffs looked her up and down with polite confusion. Not when men nodded at her like she was a misplaced intern. She had never belonged to this world, but she wasn't intimidated, just aware. She stepped toward a quiet corner, trying to stay out of the current of cliques and conversations. Most people seemed unfamiliar, except for the 2 board members hosting the event. Their expressions slid right past her like she was scenery. She probably snuck in. "She looks like the coat check girl. Who brought that?" Juniper heard every word, but she pretended not to. Years of learning to stay composed through debt, loss, rejection had taught her that silence often stung, more than reacting. Still, she bit the inside of her cheek. It wasn't the first time people had mistaken her for less than she was. It was just the first time it bothered her. Because tonight, somewhere inside this shimmering hall, was the man everyone wanted to impress. Cassian Draymond, the reclusive young billionaire who'd inherited Draymond Industries, doubled its value, then disappeared from the public eye for almost a year. He was rumored to be here to announce a new philanthropic initiative, one that would decide the fate of struggling community centers, just like the one Juniper worked for. Her center, specifically, was one of the finalists for a massive grant. And that meant Juniper had to endure every head tilt, every whisper, every amused smirk. She turned away from the murmurs, but another voice caught her ear. "She doesn't fit in," a woman said, behind a fan of feathers. "People like her never do, probably hoping someone rich notices her." Juniper breathed out slowly once, twice fighting the urge to confront them. The temptation was sharp, like a matchstick against strike paper. But no, not tonight. She scanned the room again, wondering if Cassian Draymond was even present. Rumor had it he arrived quietly, without security, slipping through crowds unseen. Though she had never met him, she knew one thing. He wasn't just wealthy. He was the man whose decisions tonight could reshape everything she'd been fighting for. A soft chime rang through the room. Conversation began, to quiet as a spotlight drifted across the stage. Juniper straightened, relieved for a distraction. The host, a tall, smug man named Leonard, cleared his throat with exaggerated importance. "Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us tonight. We are honored, deeply honored to welcome back a man whose brilliance and generosity have transformed lives across the city." Juniper tuned out the flattery, and then she saw him. Cassian, tall, composed, in a charcoal suit pressed so sharply it almost shimmered. His presence was calm, but his eyes dark, observant, took in the room with unnerving clarity, as if he heard things others didn't, as if he recognized truths beneath polite lies. His gaze swept the hall, then paused, on her. Juniper froze, breath caught behind her ribs. She convinced herself it was coincidence, just a momentary pass of attention. but his stare didn't move. Not for one heartbeat, not for 3. Until Leonard continued, "Mr. Draymond, we are grateful you've joined us to celebrate those who make true change in our communities." Cassian blinked, gaze snapping back to the stage. Juniper exhaled softly. Maybe he'd been looking past her. Maybe she imagined the focus entirely. The speech droned on. Applause fluttered across the room. Then Cassian stepped up to the podium. His voice was lower than she expected, measured, steady, but carrying an edge of private grief, like someone who'd learned the hard way to speak only when necessary. "I've spent a long time away," he began. "In that time, I've seen what happens when people judge potential by appearance. I've learned that value is rarely worn on the outside." A few people shifted awkwardly. Juniper felt the words slide under her skin. Cassian continued, "Tonight, we honor community leaders, real ones, the unseen ones." Something about his tone made Juniper's chest tighten. He gave no smile, no polished charm, just truth. He stepped down from the stage, and everything resumed. Music, laughter, glasses chiming. Juniper tried to find a new corner to hide in, but someone stepped in front of her. "Sweetheart," a woman cooed, "the staff area is that way." I'm not staff," Juniper said quietly. The woman blinked. "Oh, my mistake." Her tone said it wasn't. Juniper nodded, trying not to shrink under the weight of eyes she didn't ask for. She wished, briefly, painfully, that she had never come. Then a voice murmured behind her. "That's an interesting place to stand." She stiffened, turned. Cassian Draymond stood only a breath away. Up close, he looked even sharper, like someone carved from all the moments life had tried to break him. He didn't smile. He didn't need to. His gaze held hers, steady and unbearably intentional. "I noticed you weren't enjoying the evening," he said softly. Juniper's throat tightened. "It's not really my world." His eyes flickered a quiet recognition, deep and honest. "It will be," he murmured. Her breath trembled. "What does that mean?" Cassian leaned in, voice low enough that only she could hear. "Give it an hour," he said, "and don't let anyone make you feel small." Juniper's heartbeat slammed against her ribs. He walked away before she could respond, leaving her with a single thought. Why would a billionaire talk to her like that, like he knew her? Like he had a secret about her no one else did? Juniper tried to steady herself, but Cassian's words looped in her mind like a whispered prophecy she wasn't ready to understand. It will be. What could that possibly mean? She wasn't wealthy. She wasn't connected. She was just a woman who worked long hours at a community center, keeping lights on with duct tape and miracles. But as she moved through the crowd, something shifted. People still stared, but now it wasn't just dismissive glances. Some looked confused, others curious. One woman actually frowned, as if trying to figure out why the billionaire had singled her out. Juniper didn't like attention. She'd spent half her life learning how to avoid it, but now attention was following her. She drifted toward a quieter hallway, hoping for just a minute to breathe. Her hand touched the cool marble wall. Her pulse was still racing. "Juniper Vale," a voice called sharply. She turned. Leonard, the smug host, approached with a tight smile. "I'm sorry," she said automatically. "Am I in the wrong area?" "No," he replied, "but Mr. Draymond asked for you." Her heart seemed to stop. "He what?" Leonard's smile faltered. "Yes, he asked me to bring you to the stage." Juniper blinked. No, there must be a mistake." But Leonard shook his head, looking irritated, like her existence was an inconvenience he didn't expect to deal with tonight. "Please," he said, "follow me." The ballroom seemed to stretch forever as she walked behind him, every step louder than the last. Conversations dipped, people watched, confusion rippled like a wave. Cassian was waiting at the edge of the platform, hands in his pockets, expression unreadable. When Juniper reached him, she whispered, "Why are you doing this? I don't understand." "You don't have to," he murmured. "Not yet." Before she could protest, he took the microphone from the stand. "May I have everyone's attention?" The room fell silent. Cassian glanced at Juniper, once something warm, almost protective, passing through his eyes before turning back to the audience. "Many of you know my father built Draymond Industries," he began. "What you don't know is that he didn't build it alone." A strange tension settled. Cassian continued. "Before he passed, he made an arrangement, one that remained private for reasons I will explain." Juniper's stomach twisted. "This evening," Cassian said, "I am revealing something that should have been shared years ago." He reached into his suit pocket and unfolded a sealed document embossed with the silver Draymond crest. "My father named a successor," Cassian said, "a partner to inherit 50% of the company." Whispers exploded. Juniper's breath turned thin, sharp. Cassian looked at her again. Then he said her name, Juniper Vale. The room gasped. Cassian stepped closer, offering her the document. "She is the rightful successor," he announced. "My equal, my father's chosen heir." Juniper didn't move, couldn't. Everyone who had looked down on her stood frozen, mouths parted, eyes wide. Cassian leaned in, voice soft enough just for her. "I told you," he whispered. "This world is yours."